Zach.
Hey, man. Uh, well, I've already will have done an intro, and you know, I do a lot of these where I get to meet somebody for the first time, and it's maybe somebody I wasn't so familiar with in the beginning and all that stuff. And then there's episodes like today where you and me have met. I would love to know you better, but your band, Voivod, has meant so much to me. It's been sort of a with other musicians and other people, if I find out they're a Voivod fan, then there's this extra layer to our friendship. Stephen Edgerton from the Descendants was like that. Where it's like if you know, you know. And I love your band so much, and this is something I'm going to be very nerdy about this whole interview. So I hope I don't punish you too much.
Well, actually, uh, I'm from the same place as you because
Right, right.
I'm a Voivod nerd since so
You are
since
like you're like the crowned Voivod nerd. You're like the
I don't
king.
know.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, Dan, as far as guitar players go, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, and I probably will do that a lot because
It's all right.
I'm so overly excited about this. But for those that are listening that don't know who Voivod is, A, shame on you. B, Voivod Voivod created their own musical world, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yes, sure, it's based in heavy metal, and sure, it's based in prog rock, and there's even some art rock, and there's some, there's the varying levels and degrees of whatever King Crimson did, and just everything else. So you mix all that in, but then there's something that happens that's unto Voivod and only Voivod, and specifically the sort of guitar playing world that was your predecessor guitar player, Piggy,
Mm.
and and I don't know how to explain Piggy to somebody that hasn't already been indoctrinated into Piggy, but he created a guitar playing style. I think in a nutshell, that's probably easy to say. He
I,
Go
I
ahead.
think I think he created a guitar playing style as well, and at the same time as a compositional style
All right.
in metal that was not there before Voivod. I don't think so. There's nothing like it in the same years or so.
Right.
So yeah, he was a pioneer of this
Absolutely.
language. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a language is such a great way to put it because he really did create almost another language. And you so for guitar players, it was this imitable style. It's like, oh, you could maybe sell like right there, he's doing a flat five, his Piggy chord thing or whatever. But it was so much more. There's fourths and there's all this other stuff.
Yeah.
He wasn't like much even of a bar chord guy, like he would kind of stay away from the thing that you thought it was or it was going to. He was always going to buck the convention. And you, because you were a Voivod fan going into it, you're from uh, uh, the Quebec Province. You're from the area they're from, so you grew up with them. I've seen that picture of you with Voivod posters when you were a kid, and
Yeah.
I've other metal kids like myself. We had Slayer and Metallica posters. You had Voivod posters, which I had a Voivod poster too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that guitar playing style seems so out of bounds. And you, not only did you come in and nail his style and his sound, but you also wrote out tablature books for uh, their most popular records that I don't think any guitar player thought or he conceptualized attempting, and that's mind blowing.
It was a hard task, for sure, because sometimes you think by listening that you have the part in your mind, and then
Right?
you go deeper. And I was surprised usually by the simplicity.
Sure.
It was more simple than I thought, but the music sounded complex. But the guitar part itself, sometimes is very simple, but with the bass interaction and everything that's going on, it sounds
Right.
complete. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the world's greatest players, right? And that's the world when you get a player that only sounds like himself. That I've said it on here 1,000 times. You could put your blindfold and go, oh, that's Piggy or that's whoever. And Voivod were made up of only those musicians. So away, Michel Langevin, which I'm probably butchering his name because I'm from Texas and I say things stupid.
It's
Uh,
good.
okay, okay, you're gonna have to correct my a lame attempt at French this whole interview. But, you know, Away is one of those drummers like that as a, you know, you can just tell that's Away playing. And I was a huge fan of Blackie, the previous bass player as well. So Voivod were these musicians that they found each other, and they happened to be living in, you know, outside of Montreal, and you know, it's just it's this confluence and this convergence that we're also lucky that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and did you grow up very far away from where they actually were?
Well, they were in northern Quebec, but they left there since 85 to move to Montreal. So they were in Montreal from 85 on,
Gotcha.
very early in their career, you know, like 2 years after they formed, they have already split for Montreal. But I live in between, kind of, maybe closer to Montreal, but I'm from a city called Trois-Rivières. You played
Okay.
there, actually. I think we were supposed to play there
Oh, we did.
together.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
and so it's between Quebec City and Montreal, but they were like 5 hours north than to Montreal, from Montreal by car, and
I
I'm
got you.
like Trois Rivières is like maybe 1 hour and a half, so it's not so far. But yeah, I don't have any connection there as
Well,
I as I grew up.
so growing up, were they just the local metal heroes for you?
Well, at first we just heard the name, because there was not much. Uh, not much stuff available to listen to before Much Music, or our French version of Much Music,
Yeah,
which was like Power Hour and stuff like that. And anyway, video clips on TV of
yeah,
heavy metal bands, it came out a little bit after that. So we heard the name by older cousins, like the people that were a little bit older than me. They went to the actual shows in secondary schools and stuff like that, and we heard there were kind of the most heavy,
right.
devilish, scary band ever, and they had uh, pyros, but it was all amateur. They used to take
Yeah,
bullets and empty them, put it in cans, and make it explode, and it was totally illegal. But they did it anyway, and they didn't care. So they were thirsty. They had to express themselves in an extreme way. And so
right.
I heard the name because people were screaming it in the street, like it was something cool, and I didn't know what it was at first. And then I've learned that there was a band called Voivod, but because of the song Voivod, people were
Yeah,
like Voivod. It was
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah,
their rally scream, like if you scream that, you're cool,
yeah,
like.
yeah.
So at some point, I've known, I discovered what it was, and it was through a distorted channel of TV, because we didn't have cable, so we could listen to the video clip program without the image. It was just the sound, and sometimes the image would be okay for a few seconds and go back to distorted.
Right, right.
So at some point, I remember there was, I think, Coroner, Celtic Frost, and Voivod in the same program, and I was getting, you know, to discover heavy metal and more underground stuff. And when Voivod happened, I thought there was nothing like it. I never
Whoa.
heard something like it. It was not like a gent, or I mean,
Right,
way before
right.
gent, but I mean chunky riffs on the big
Sure.
string and muted. It was all high pitch triads with minor chords. I couldn't tell at the time, but high pitched guitar with a kind of strange punkish
Yeah,
vocals, and I saw the drawings of a way, crazy drawings and all that in the video clip. So already their universe was very unique on a visual uh, level, and the music was totally different. So I got hooked right away. I wanted to
right.
know more, and that's when I jumped on my bicycle with my paperboy money. I went to the store, who was kilometers away, and I was like 11, and that's the first cassette I bought, was a Killing Technology at the time.
You're
So
kidding me. So the first cassette you bought, and then you ended up in the band.
yeah, yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah. And I
Unbelievable.
didn't even play the guitar back then, so it was a motivation for me to buy a guitar, and I wanted to have a band like Voivod, like do something not similar to them, because it was so unique that I wanted to create it something unique as well, as an
Right.
influence from their mentality.
Yeah.
So it was the starting point for me.
What a great record too, Killing Technology. I remember hearing that intro to Ravenous Medicine, the We Have Connected thing, and I was just like, oh shit. My brother and I were just like, what the fuck is this, man? And then it just blew our mind. And was always Voivod has always been in my top five. And it's funny you mentioned Celtic Frost and Corner. I loved Celtic Frost and Corner. I
Yeah.
loved all the thrash metal that was happening in the late 80s, but there was something about them. And to this day,
Mm.
that and I was so thankful as a fan that they found you, because once Piggy died, I was like, that's it. No one's going to be able to,
Me too.
imitate that style and play that style, and not only that, not just play that style, but then keep creating in a way that is their own, but also staying true to the Voivod tradition and sounding like Voivod. Because I would think
Mm.
arguably their records that you have been on are arguably some of their best, and that's a true testament to you. So it's this amazing thing you've done. It really
Thank you
is.
so much. It means a
Absolutely.
lot. I mean, growing up with the band's music and listening to it so many times,
Yeah.
uh, I said to you pre-interview that anyway, family life was not easy when I was a kid, and I we ended up in a kind of a house for abused family, whatever.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've played Killing Technology non-stop for 3 weeks there, and it saved my sanity. And
Yeah.
I've listened to this band I fell in love with. Maybe that context brought me there. I started to try to learn the riffs, but I was so beginner that I couldn't, find my way.
Right.
But it was always there, and every time they put out an album, I was listening to it nonstop, and I got hooked. So it was part of my musical learning process, really, from the start. So at some point, when I got more serious and studied music and started my own band at 14, which was called Martyr,
Yeah.
we had this kind of conscience of not copying anybody and trying to find our own way and our own language. But there was always this big, big, big Voivod influence, and it's part of my musical DNA, so to speak.
Sure.
So I've learned the language
Sure.
at
Sure.
an early age. So when it came time to play the stuff, I was already, I was 28 years old, I think, or something, and I was a professional musician since maybe 8 years or so.
Yeah.
So played many different kind of music and studied music, and I understood harmony and all that. So for me, for learn and I knew the songs. If I didn't
Right.
knew the song on my guitar, I knew them in my head.
Sure.
So it was not a big task for me to learn the songs and play them, because once you know the structure of the song, you just
Right.
have to know the the parts. But
Right.
it make it I didn't have to learn the form,
Right.
like
Because it
where's the
was
chorus, where's the intro. I
right.
knew them, so it was kind
Right.
of natural and fun, and
Right.
very
At that
fun to
point,
do.
it's in your blood. Well, I think you're being humble too. I don't think anyone else could have stepped into that gig the way you did. I really don't. As a fan, it was mind blowing. And then going to see the band the first time with you it was just I mean, they are so lucky to have you, you know,
I'm
uh,
lucky to have them. I think
for
it's a
sure. For sure. I think,
win-win.
yeah, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. And and it happened again with your bass player Rocky. Am I
Yeah,
um
we
the DNA of that band is almost also the bass tone, and he has the exact Blackie bass tone. He plays those parts, and now has also added his own thing to it while
yeah.
continuing with the tradition. It's just such an amazing thing to witness and to see. Now you,
Rocky's an old friend. We
oh,
we
okay,
grew up in the same city. We knew each other since maybe we were 14, 15-year old. He's a bit older than me. So when it came time to find another bass player, I knew, I
you know
knew it was
he
him.
had it.
Yeah.
Well, you were exactly right. So you mentioned Martyr a little bit, and Martyr also a highly influential band and celebrated as well before Voivod, and that was with your brother, correct?
Yeah,
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 my I was always in bands with my brother too, so I have a soft spot in my heart for that sibling, the
yeah.
blood harmony, so to speak. So that was your first band, and you had it with your brother, and that had you. How long before that band had you started playing guitar?
2 years before,
Okay,
I started to play at 12 years old, and at 14 we formed a band.
that's great.
And so we started to play covers, but we already had compositions at our first gig, which was 3 songs.
Right,
And
right.
I was 14, or yeah, and um, yeah, we really wanted to create. I have to say that we had a bit of piano lessons when we were younger, and it
Yeah,
helped a lot when starting a new instrument. Nothing serious though, but yeah, we started very at a very young age. It became serious maybe around the age of 16, 17, around 93 or so.
right,
That
right,
really wanted to put all our time into it and all that.
right. Yeah, that's a good age for it. It's you're young, you're resilient. You go tour around that, when you're younger like that, and you don't have any quality of life. You'll sleep anywhere, you'll eat anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so important. I don't know if bands still do that. I don't know if that's how you do it still. I've gotten asked that question before where, for me also, I had my brother. It was actually
Mm,
my literal family was out there, and we were just
yeah.
toughing it out together and us against the world. And
You
nowadays,
play music, you're happy. You
yeah,
don't mind sleeping on the fucking floor with the
exactly.
dog poo in your face.
Exactly. Which is inevitable. You're gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
You
gonna do
wake
it.
up with the dog poo
On your
in your
face, on your
face.
face, in your mouth.
And
Yeah.
having trouble eating or sleeping, it's not important that much.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to eat something at some point,
Right. The most important
and
thing is you're out playing.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
you're happy when you do. uh,
Exactly. Exactly. I
you have
love it.
nothing to lose at this age too. We had
Right.
nothing. We had
I
nothing. So
I wouldn't trade it for the world, those formidable years.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
so what was your gear like back then when in the Martyr days? What were you using?
Well, when the band was more established, I had the Jackson the Warrior, a Japanese one. That
Yeah.
was my first proper guitar. Before that, I had a good Charvel number 1, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before that, it was crappy stuff,
Crappy
crappy
stuff. Yeah.
guitars. Yeah. And my amp, my first serious amp was a Hughes and Kettner head and cab. Before that, I had a 212 Marshall GCM 800,
Yeah.
and before that, practice amp. It was not even loud enough to compete with the drums. And by the way, our first drummer didn't know how to play the drums, so he told us he played the drums, but that was not true. So we ended up putting our money together for renting a drums for $60 for a month, and I had to learn it to show him how to play.
Oh my God.
And that was how dedicated we were. Learning another instrument to
That's great.
make your drummer play, and
Yeah.
later on he said to me, I didn't know how to play. I said, I know.
I know.
Yeah,
You're right. Yeah.
but
It was evident. You seem like one of those people that are preternaturally good at music. Like music, you're just good at music. That seems to be what I've picked up from watching you play and talking to you.
um I don't know. I mean, I have a good ear that I know of since a young age, but my mother still sing in a choir at
Yeah.
almost 80-year-old. So music was there, was around classical music. So she taught me about singing on the right pitch and all that. So it was early on that I've
Yeah.
developed that ear, but I think I work a lot too. Yeah, it's not like I'm sitting around and everything happens. I practiced a lot, I studied a lot, and when I have to do something, I put all my
Sure.
energy to it. So it's not like it's easy all the time or anything
Right.
like that. But there's hours and hours and hours and hours of practice. I remember when I was 14, I was spend 8 hours on the guitar every day,
Yeah.
and even with school, I went back to eat, and I didn't eat during lunchtime. I was playing the guitar and back to school and come. So I played all the time, really,
Yeah.
as
You
long as
have
I
to.
could.
You really
Yeah,
have to, you know.
yeah.
If you want to get to that level as a player, and you know where you are. So you know that Jackson Warrior, if I'm not mistaken, was that the guitar that you were using when you joined Voivod?
I think so.
I remember
Maybe the
pictures of you with
first
that.
couple show. Oh no, it was at first I was playing with the Jackson Warrior, and then I had the luthier make me kind of Jackson Warrior with a little bit of Voivod cuts here and there.
Right.
Before I
Yeah.
was in Voivod, because it was the same luthier than Piggy, and I wanted a Liberator guitar.
Is it okay? I was going to talk to you about those because I was obsessed with those fucking
Yeah,
things. Yeah. So
it
it's
was.
when my Texas accent, we're always like, my brother and I were always like, it's a Liberator, and my brother wanted the blower bass so
Yeah,
bad, so
the
bad.
the design were great, but they made it themselves, Piggy and Blackie, and that's I think the song "Build Your Weapons" is all about. And so they made the body and they took necks from other guitars, and it was kind of a Frankenstein. But
Yeah.
at some point, a luthier helped them, and they designed the body still, but it was made. The whole guitar was made by Liberatore, which is a great luthier in Montreal. I think he retired now, but it was one of my fantasy to have the same brand and Voivod,
Yeah.
and to have cuts like a
Do it the
little bit
real
like
way. Yeah.
just how do you say, like a citation,
Right. Right.
citation, so to
Right. Right.
speak,
Right.
on
Right.
the guitar. So I played that guitar in Martyr years before joining Voivod. And then when I started with Voivod, I used this one as a main one, and now I work with Louis Philippe Bond at Bond Instrument,
That's what I
and
was. Yeah, I was going to ask you about those. I noticed you post about the ones that, the newer ones that he makes you and things like that.
yeah, yeah, that's the one I use now.
Okay. And do you still have the? I'm not going to pronounce it the way you say it, but Libertator.
Liberator, I still have it. It's in the case. I haven't used it since so many years.
Okay.
Still have the Jackson too.
That's great.
It's in the case.
Well, for anyone listening, so these instruments, these liber I was always Liberator,
Liberator, yeah, yeah,
Liberator. They it was almost like if you saw them in their photos, especially the Blackie's blower bass, he had a bass tremolo on it. I remember that.
yeah.
And this is in pretty much the Astronomy Domine video where they're like the camera's panning down his bass. It was almost like you couldn't figure out what the shape was. It was so radical and crazy, and all these crazy angles and points, and you couldn't. It just my brother and I never got a solid look at it, so we're like, what is the shape of that
I
fucking bass? You know?
was really strange, and Luthier was really mad at them because he had to sandpaper it on all the
Yeah.
angle. So it was kind of it was a big job. But yeah, it was totally crazy, and it was part of the universe of the band. When actually the first band I went to see live was Voivod 2 in
Jesus.
'89, and I was 13-year-old, and I was the youngest kid there, and everybody had a head higher than me.
Yeah.
I was so intimidated. It smelled like tobacco, or orchestra tobacco, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't know that smell anyway. And it was a crazy experience. It changed my life, my whole
Sure.
perspective on bands, and the show was so great. It was the Nothing Face tour. It was in 90, not 89, 1990, and yeah. So seeing the instruments on stage, the weird shapes and all how they moved, it really had an impact on me for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that was what was cool about them because like not only did the music not sound like anybody, they weren't playing they were playing guitars that were unattainable. Like you couldn't imitate, you couldn't play their stuff, you couldn't buy their guitars, you couldn't everything was so unto Voivod. The
Yeah,
concepts were coming out of Way's head that were just like I remember like, okay, so now it's Nothing Face. What is the Voivod character doing on this one? Trying to deduce in my teenager brain like where he was in the whole comic book world of it and all. It just, oh
that's
my
true.
god, I'm such
And
a
I felt there
huge
was
fan.
always a space to interpretation as well,
Sure,
for the concept, and that made your mind working more, and
yeah,
your imagination going, which was
it's not it's a band that if you're a fan, there's so much for you to digest as a fan. There's so much for you to sort of. They're giving you so much. It's such a,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not just oh, I like this band's songs. It's like it's a whole world. I remember the Headbangers Ball on MTV in the States on Saturday nights, and they would say up next we got Voivod, and my brother and I would freak out and tape it, and it was the Tribal Convictions video, and
yeah.
oh my god, it was just so awesome.
So different.
Yeah. So now, what amps are you using now?
I have a La Pointe. You can see here
Oh,
in the
gotcha,
back.
gotcha.
It's a guy in Montreal who makes it, and he's really talented. He's like a mad scientist,
Yeah,
and he starts to make a amp for guys around here, and he wants to you know to have a good business with it. So it sounds really great. I
right.
used it on the album, and I bring it when I can on tour. When we go in Europe, though I cannot uh, for logistic
Sure.
matters, but it sounds really, really great. I play it
Right.
in all kind of gigs as well, not only Voivod.
And so let's talk about that a little bit. So you do play other styles of music, other bands, other things like that. What keeps you busy when you're not out with Voivod?
I always was a freelance as a musician, so I accompany pop, rock, blues artists. Not so much blues, but a little bit. Um, uh, Blues rock.
Yeah,
I have a prog rock tribute band. We play some Gentle Giant and Genesis and stuff like
that's
that. So it's
amazing.
very challenging and it's fun. And we're five vocals. We do the harmony and the counterpoint and stuff like that. Uh, so I never played only metal. I always was open-minded when it came to music and trying to be convincing in many styles. I'm
Sure.
trying to be. So I play some TV shows as well. Played and still play once a year to uh, like bring money for young people in the street.
Right.
A fundraiser, yeah, fundraiser for young kids in the street. So every year we have many famous local artists in Montreal that comes to participate. So one can be an opera singer, and then you have a country singer, and then you have a
Right.
folk singer. So you have to learn all the languages, all the songs, and try to find the tone with the right guitar and the right
Right.
intention musically. So it's very challenging but very interesting at the same time, and it
Right.
keeps me always aware and in the game, so to speak. So I
Yeah.
like it.
Man, that's fascinating to me. It's fascinating because some guys they join the bigger band and they stop. They know that gig, they know how to do it. They're not pushing themselves beyond that. They're not trying. Um, and to know that
I
you're in a prog rock tribute band where you're like Peter Gabriel Genesis era Genesis is some of my favorite stuff of all
Yeah,
time, and that you're playing that stuff. That's so inspiring.
the thing is in Quebec, uh, well, Canada, as you know, we're only like 40 million or 50 million people in the whole country, which is big like Russia or something.
Sure.
And so making a living being a musician uh, with the density of the population there is and the market there is here, it's very difficult if you have only one band. Even
Yeah.
for us, playing metal in English in a French province is something with barriers. Like you don't play
Right.
on the radio, you don't have uh, as much as opportunities to play live too in our own place. We do,
Yeah.
but it's limited in a way. And so as a musician you have to diversify your capabilities, trying to learn to do something um, else by necessity, to make a living out of it, because you're not on tour 8 months a year either.
Yeah.
We could, but it's difficult. And
Right.
and I teach music too in college. So I tried at a young age. I decided to be a professional musician. So I told myself back then, I have to have all the tools so I can always put money on the table, eat, pay my rent with music.
Right. I
So
love that.
that's where I decided to really open the all the possibilities, writing charts, arrangements, playing in the studio, playing live for any kind of artist, composing, uh,
Yeah.
all the aspects of being a musician can help. So during the pandemic, I just had private students on video, like
Yeah.
online. It totally helped me. It saved my year really. So
Sure. Well,
so
you're a musician in the classic sense of the word because that's what musicians used to have to do. They were taking gigs, they were playing, but they were also teaching and they were also composing and they taking studio work and they were taking TV work and all that stuff. So you're the classic sense of a musician, which is an anachronism nowadays. Let's face it, pretty much. It's either people want to sort of do it the way that we were talking about earlier, getting in a van and going and touring. But if that is now dried up because of, social media, whatever it might be, they're
mm,
just out of ideas. It's not like, well, maybe I could go to school and get a degree and learn how to compose and learn how to read music and write music. There's all these other
yeah.
venues that so many people, the short-sightedness of some people nowadays, or the attention span or the laziness, they're not going to try those avenues.
There's also the fact that you can have a band and it works great for 5 or 10 years if you're lucky, but then life happens and it's split, and then you have to start over again. And I mean, it's not a long career usually, and it doesn't mean that you can do it for your whole life. You're
Right.
lucky if you last. It's not given. You have to work
Sure.
hard and hard and hard. Not every band has a 40-year career,
It's true.
and
It's true.
and so if your band doesn't work, what are you gonna do? You can choose to go work at the factory, and if it's all good,
Yeah.
there's no problem with that. But I choose my way of life in a different mindset
Right.
where I could anything happen, unless I even if I lose a hand and I don't want yeah, I'll knock on wood. But I mean, I could write. I could because I can write notes on a
Yeah.
piece of paper. So I mean, I don't want it to happen though.
Sure.
but but
Knock wood.
I always thought, I'll use all the tools that I can have to make a living out of it.
Well,
If something great happens and I don't have to do everything, and I can only concentrate on one thing, maybe it would make things a bit easier. But
right.
at the same time, playing the same band all over again, over and over, and only playing one style of music will be boring to me.
Sure. Well, I did the same thing as a kid. I was like, I'm gonna be a musician. This is how I'm gonna make a living. Because for me, I was like a cocky little asshole where it was like, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. Fuck it. That's a job. Why can't I do that job? What's
Yeah,
what makes him so special? I can do that. And then I just, threw caution to the wind and did it. But
that's
again,
great.
like you and me were saying, it was more of a viable source of income back then because the roadmap was like we didn't have internet back then, and it's like
Mm,
the 90s. I imagine when Martyr started as well. You get a
yeah, it
map.
was super
Uh,
hard.
yeah, it's you making calls and it's a phone book and you have a Mapsco for your, to get around, and you have a
Yeah,
van and a trailer and your buddies and then you're gone. And it's like every gig you get, here's money and then here's money and here's, it's not
yeah,
much, but it'll
yeah,
get you to the next gig. You just keep doing that until you're actually like paying for yourself to eat and shit. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a
And
crazy lifestyle.
when Martyr started, we I couldn't even speak English. It was
Wow.
impossible to call and book gigs in another country, or even in the rest of Canada. I've learned English on the road. I still struggle with it,
Oh,
but I've
you're
learned
doing great.
English. My first tour in the U.S. was with Gorgots in the year 2000 or 2001, and that's where I realized I really don't know how to speak English, and I've learned it on the road slowly, and
Hey man, I,
so
I can't speak a word of French. So the fact that we're communicating at all is a true testament to the fact that you know how to speak English. Um, that's that's great. And so did Martyr officially break up, or do you guys still do things ever so often, or?
It's pretty much break up since 10 years.
Yeah.
We, I mean, my brother, we still, we still are brothers. We talk from time to time. I saw him yesterday actually at my mom's
Mm.
place, and I'm in contact with the guitar player, the guitar player who last played in Martyr. He's my official number one sub replacement guitar player when I go on tour and I have gigs here.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's my number one, and for since the last 15 years. And so
Wow.
we are in contact, and he's taking care of also. He helps me with the Martyr merch that's left, like the vinyls and CDs and stuff like that. I might print tab books this year, finally after 10 years.
Wow.
And there's a demand for it, so I might get more busy on this side. And Patrice, the drummer, ended up in Gorguts and Cephalic Carnage and bands
Oh,
like that.
wow.
So he kept busy. So he's doing great.
So he's a very tech. I mean, I remember Martyr was for lack of a better term, mathy and very technical.
Yeah,
Very, yeah. It was that sort of a thing that people really loved about that band.
well, it's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Too much complicated. But no, I don't know. Yeah, Voivod has something to do with it, like the
Sure.
complexity of the composition. But
Sure.
then you had in the 90s, you had bands like Death and Cynic and Meshuggah,
Yep.
and it all influenced us in a different way. So the death metal took over, kind of, but the Voivods, the tritone and the dissonance and the prog approach was always there. It was but my biggest influence for sure in Martyr.
Man, Meshuggah, woof, they took it to a
Oh
whole other
yeah.
thing. It's just insane how technically proficient that band is.
I
Uh,
remember I saw them in their first show at Milwaukee Metal Fest in '98. It was their first show in America,
oh
actually,
wow,
and I was there because we were playing with Martyr there the same day or the next day. Good
wow.
memory.
So take me to you joining Voivod, this your favorite band. Um, was there an audition, or did they know that you were, that you were this kid, this wonderkind that can nail it?
That's really strange, but in my career, I never had an audition.
Wow.
I never passed an audition, or unless I didn't know about it. I guess it's always an audition when you play,
Sure.
but I never had an official audition for any gigs that I got. It was word of mouth. Uh, is that a good expression in
That's a
English?
great expression.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just that, or some guy seeing me play, or some other person hearing about me or whatever. And about with Voivod, I was into the metal scene with Martyr for a while, and I played in as a fill-in in in Gorguts I was in the band, but with Cryptopsia as well. So my name was around the place, and there was Piggy's how do you say it, public memorial
Yeah. Yeah.
in Montreal, and Away was there. I met Away a bit before, but I didn't know the guys. I was not. They were not friends or anything. We didn't know each other. But Blackie came into town, back to Montreal in early 2000s, and we became friends. And we did a show tribute to Voivod for. I mean, no, we did a kind of an all-star band with
Right.
Flo from Cryptopsy and some local musician, Pierre Rémillard, who's a studio guy. Blackie was on the bass, I was on the guitars, and we did like an hour set of classic thrash metal. We played some Voivod, we played some Slayer songs, and it was just for fun.
Yeah.
And after that, a few years like later, Piggy passed away in 2005, and we did a tribute to Voivod and Piggy, and Blackie was in the band, and I arranged like a 15 minutes medley, and Piggy's family was in the crowd. Away and Snake were there, and we did a 15-minute Voivod medley, and that's, I think, when Away and Snake thought it would be maybe possible to do
Yeah.
something again.
Well, because from their perspective, they're probably thinking we're fucked. We're never going to be a band again. This is it. That guy died, and then they see this kid that plays just like him and has it all down. They're like, oh shit, we can be a band again. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so that year, the next year I was playing in a musical called Dracula, which was with pop singers on stage, and I had a few solos going in front and all that with makeup.
Yeah, yeah,
It paid my university, and it was really fun to do. And I invited away because some common professional friend and away always liked the Dracula Bram Stoker story because Voivod, the name comes from that book, you know.
yes, yeah,
So he came to the show, and I did a special Voivodish solo that night just for him because I could improvise every day. And I think a few years later, I wrote to him at some point, because I had this email because of that show and the invitation. If you ever think of doing something special to celebrate Voivod or Piggy or whatever, I will be honored to play one note with you
yeah,
guys. I know the catalog. I'm a fan. With respect, that's it. Without saying more.
yeah.
And I think a few months later, I got a call from away. I was teaching in college, and I answered, and yeah, we have an offer to play Heavy Montreal, Heavy MTL, a festival
Yeah, yeah,
probably.
yeah,
It was with Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, and a bunch of bands. Big thing. And I said, okay. I was like this, trying
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
it together with my mouth to the bottom, like very surprised, um, and then so I repeated. You mean you want to play some Voivod songs as a tribute in the festival? And he answered, no, it's gonna be Voivod.
Wow.
It's like officially it's gonna be Voivod, but it was supposed to be only one show, only
Right,
this time.
right.
And it was kind of say hi to the crowd, pay respect to Piggy and all that. And it was not sure it was going to be Blackie because Jason was not officially. It was still in the band at the time,
Right,
Jason
right.
Newsted.
Yeah.
So phone calls and all that and conversation, and finally we get to rehearse. uh, it was going on, and we have to rehearse. So I learned the song. I did my homeworks. I helped Blackie learn his part back because he had played since maybe 15 years or so. So we came at the rehearsal prepared, and after the first song, Snake gave me a big hug, arms in the air, and he got goosebumps, and he said it's like Piggy's playing beside me. And
It's
so it was
true.
very welcoming, very
Yeah.
heartwarming, and very intimate also for them.
Sure.
And I was a stranger to them too. It's like it was very, very unique experience, and it never stopped. So
Yeah.
from that one show, uh, there were some more calls, playing with Ozzy in Calgary, Monster of Rock, and then Japan, and then Judas Priest at the Bell Center in Montreal. So it never stopped from there, and we
Wow.
played 5 years without writing any notes,
Just
just
playing.
playing the
Right.
catalog.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
Wow.
kind of it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I saw you guys at South by Southwest here in Austin, and it was that
Oh
gig
yeah,
where we met because of James McLean. Hi, James McLean. Shout out, who's a
that's
family.
probably the only Voivod gig that I don't want to remember. It was
I still thought it was great. You guys had technical difficulties. It was not band difficulties, but
yeah.
but I remember Blackie coming out after you guys had walked off stage because you were having amp trouble, and then a Blackie comes out and just throws a beer bottle down and it smashes and hits everybody. And I thought that was great. I was like, yeah, it's so cool.
Hey, I really and you can maybe edit that one, but uh, I really thought we could be in trouble if someone got a glass in
Right.
his
Right.
eyes and bleeding and all that. Fortunately, nothing happened, but I was really bummed. I was really mad
Really? Oh,
for
see,
sure.
I was in the front row, like it glass
Yeah.
hit me, but I
Oh
kind of
my
dug it.
God.
But that was one of the things, you said it before about them being like a punk thing. I was, because I'm from Texas, I got into anything counterculture. So I got into punk at the same time I got into metal. And
Mm.
Voivod, they looked like, I mean, they always wore Discharge and Broken Bones
Yeah.
shirts, and
Yeah.
they always wore punk rock shirts. And then Blackie had his head shaved on one
Mm.
side, and they had that kind of D beat influence thing that
Yeah.
was, that was very Discharged. And there was something very punk about them. And also, especially with Blackie, he just looked like some punker that was going to, like,
Mm.
you're going to get in a street fight with. And so when he did that, it was kind of like, okay, I already suspected that about this guy, which I thought it was cool. But
Yeah.
as being in the band, I can
Well,
understand that would have been
yeah, if
frustrating
you get sued because
for
there's an
sure.
injury and then it's all over the internet and it's
Yeah.
complicated, this kind of situation. But anyway, I understand what you say as well.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
I get it.
But
Yeah.
and so Blackie ended up not going the long haul. He left again, and you guys got Rocky, which is very
Yeah.
fortunate. You found the right guy for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially being on tour is might be the most difficult part in a band's life, and
sure.
you have to get along and mellow stuff down when some tensions appear. So he's the best partner for that, and we really get along, and we have a blast playing together, and the chemistry is just perfect. And
Well, that's what
yeah,
matters most.
yeah.
That's what matters. That's what matters most. And for somebody like you, such a dedicated musician, I imagine it's also you want somebody that's on the same page. It's taking it as seriously as you are, and
Also
yeah,
some because I can be difficult as a person, and I need I need some people that can bring me down sometimes too.
I got you.
So we all rely on each other, and I know I can be a pain for others as well, and it's
Well,
part of the balance in a band, I guess.
I've grown to find out the best musicians are usually pretty difficult. They hear things a certain way, they want things a certain way. It's just how it is, and I mean that's why they're so good at what they do, and that's why it sounds the way it sounds, and people, that's why you have a career. You got to have to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. It happens. Speaking of Piggy, I met Piggy once. I was in Guar, and Guar had toured with Voivod before I was in the band, and they
Ah,
always knew
yeah,
that I
yeah,
loved him. Yeah, and we played Club Soda there on off St.
yeah.
Catherine, and there's Piggy. And this was 99, maybe 2000, maybe two, I don't know. And I think I asked him if I could meet him. I was like, "Hey, can I meet you?" And he was so nice. He was so generous, and
Yeah,
I know I punished him, and I asked him 1,000 dumb questions. This was when he was like playing a Les Paul. Remember, he had like stopped playing the Libertors. He was using that red
yeah.
Les Paul, and he was using that. I don't know the name of it. I
Was
should.
he an S Paul or an SG?
It was I could have sworn it was a Les Paul.
Okay,
It was like
okay.
that an era, but he also had that guitar that was like tubes that was made out of
Yeah,
poles. I don't know what the name of that guitar is, and I
it's
should.
Born to Rock.
Born to Rock.
Yeah, and it's
Wow.
during Jason Newsted era that he had this guitar. I think
Okay,
the one
maybe.
with tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
such a cool looking guitar. But it was like he was
Sci-fi.
using, yeah, it was fully sci-fi. It fit, He was using
Yeah,
those two, and I was like, I remember being a little bummed because I wanted to punish him about the Libertors, and then I realized that I was probably just
I
way
did the
too
same.
nerd.
Than
Yeah.
you. I met him in 2001 at Fofun Electric in Montreal, and actually Dave Grohl was there because Snake and Dave Grohl did the Probot thing.
Yes.
Snake
Yeah.
was not in Voivod at that time. It was Eric Forrest away and Piggy, and I kind of tried to to speak with Piggy, and he was really nice to me. But I was like I probably was punishing him like
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's
ask
okay.
about the Liberators, and he told me he had some of them left, but in cases forever, so they didn't use them anymore.
And you're like, I want to hang. I want to see them. I want to play.
Yeah,
I want to see those guitars. I was so excited that Blackie had his Libertor at that South by Southwest show. I was like, yeah, there it is. But that's
I
what
know what you mean.
Voivod are. It's such a, like I said before, it's almost a cultural there's a whole universe around
Yeah.
Voivod, and for me, it was the visuals, it was the sound, it was the guys, it was the fact, the Piggy and Black, they all had those names and everything. And again, I'll tell you, Dan, I won't keep you too much longer. Well, we keep this around about an hour. That they're so lucky to have found you. I know you consider yourself lucky to have found them as well, but speaking as purely a guitar player, that's not an easy role to step into. And I know once you get into it, like you were saying, like, oh, this is easier than I thought, but it's not just the playing.
Mm.
It's not just that you know how to play and sound like Piggy. It's that you just fit. And that, with a band like that, that's imitable, and in my opinion, as important, you have to check all those boxes to do it effectively. And boy, do you ever do that.
I think playing together for 5 years before writing helped a lot. And then my first album, Target Earth, I was a little bit more shy to, I was feeling this imposter syndrome thing.
Sure, sure.
And at some point, I let it go, and it started to really work. But then the other out with the first EP we did with Rocky and the Wake and the Synchronarchy that we did. Felt really really natural as being part of the sound of the band right now, in this period of time. And we don't try to imitate the past. I'm always aware of the sound of the band and how I would like it to sound like as a fan,
Yeah.
but at the same time I cannot imitate Piggy. I never felt like I replaced Piggy,
Right.
but just trying to make Snake in a way happy and the fans happy inside of me, and then the fans happy with what we do, but and try to keep authentic and being ourselves through it, because
Yeah.
if you try too much to be something else, you just sound like a pale copy or something.
Sure.
So it's important to me that we focus on the present time and we create and sculpt together the music that happens now without too much overthinking, and
Yeah.
try to be spontaneous together and work it out. And
Well,
so far, I think so good.
well, I will echo that, and it's one of those things where it sounds like Voivod, the natural progression of Voivod. You were able to step in where it was creatively, where it would have been creatively, had unfortunately Piggy not died, and because of your advanced musicianship, were able to take it in your own direction while still staying true to the source material, and that's
as
astounding. That's an astounding feat.
as soon as we play together, the riffs I come up with, or the ideas, sometimes Snake sings a melody and I do a song out of it.
Yeah,
I create an arrangement out of it. And sometimes I record some drum beats, and I have to write a riff with a drum beat, which I never did before. And sometimes Rocky comes with a bass line and it becomes a big guitar riff, and the guitar riff
yeah,
becomes the bass. And I was not shy on writing a lot of the bass part on the last album. I just heard it in my head, so why not? So I pick up the
yeah,
bass and I recorded it right away. And Rocky is not something that is someone. I mean, that is. If it works, he's not gonna say it's not me that wrote it, or there's no ego in the way, so to speak. Like,
right. Which is very
it's the
important.
songs that decide. It's not us, and that's really, really um, enjoyable process to write.
Right. Well, and as a result, the new album being Synchro Anarchy, the last album being The Wake, which, by the way, I was listening to the entire pandemic, and it's just amazing. And the previous record, Target Earth. I mean, you know, it it's astounding because this is a band that's been together for 40 years, yet you're still pushing yourselves creatively and still pushing the envelope like a young band would. You're not just resting on, oh, we're Voivod and we can, let's face it, you could just keep doing, Angel Rat or Nothing Face or Dimension Hatros, um, Hatros, uh, until
Which
you
would
could,
be a hard task.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you're taking that and as your jumping off point, and you're still in reinventing yourselves and creating new things for each record,
Yeah.
and
I
that's a
think that's
real
what
hard thing to do.
that's what keeps the fire of the
Sure.
artist inside. Like trying to outdo yourself all the time and
Right.
pushing, and that's really important to me, to
Well,
us.
as a guitar player, listening to you pushing yourself creatively on every record is nothing but inspiring. Given the fact that you are already in a band that is not a conventional guitar band, like we both
Mm.
said, with heavy metal and thrash metal, a lot of bar chords. Let's face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a
and
lot of
also, I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's a lot of Phrygian scale. It's a lot of pentatonic. It's a lot of and you definitely buck all of those traditional, conventional uh, rules and stereotypes. And
There's also
yeah,
what I wanted to say is it would be I mean, Piggy had his own concept of soloing as well. He would play over dissonant chords with a
yeah,
blues scale, and that
right,
worked
right.
amazing. I cannot do that. I just can't. It's not my style, and it's his thing, and it's his signature. I have a total, complete different style with my leads, and I think that's where we differ a lot. But it would be totally wrong to shred over
Right,
Voivod stuff, like
right,
sweeping all over the place and
right.
fucking play fast everywhere. And anyway, I
Which
don't want to do that,
which
but
is another testament to you because I've watched your Martyr stuff. I've listened to Martyr, and you are that guitar player. You can shred as a guitar player.
maybe not anymore.
I don't think
I
so.
mean, I
But
mean
but
physically,
but
it's
but
a
with Voivod, you do keep in those confines because you're right. Piggy would do E minor and pentatonic, blues
yeah,
leads almost, or stay within that, minor scale, but over these chords he sort of made up and invented because
which was
he wasn't a trained guitar player like you were, and maybe that's why because he didn't know some of the rules, so he just played Piggy style, and that's
yeah,
what came out. And then he knew you could tell he knew the blues box and he knew his pentatonic scale. So that's how he did a lead guitar solo. And
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 it
it does
sounded
work.
totally sci-fi on over a
Totally. And it sounds so
very
cool.
dissonant. Yeah, I love it.
All
I
right.
love it.
I love it
Uh,
too. I love it too. And it's what I'm so glad you said that because I would have forgotten about that to ask you about that, like how that doesn't work, but it completely works.
yeah,
It
yeah,
also complete. You expect him to do this maybe a Ornette Coleman thing,
yeah.
over these dissonant, but maybe he just didn't know that. He just like, oh, it's a solo. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, he wanted to rock
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing.
mm,
Well, Dan, I've kept you for an hour, buddy, and I'll let you go. I really thank you so much for doing this. Real quick before I let you go, I always ask everybody,
yeah.
what's one that got away? Do you have a guitar or a piece of gear or something that you got stolen or you had to sell? Is something you've lamented ever since?
Something that I
That you lost, like a guitar or a piece of gear that you've lost or you like got stolen or you had to sell that you've always wanted to get
uh
back.
yes, that's strange, but I had a guitar that I wish I didn't sell. It was an old Ibanez,
Okay.
when they were writing in Mac
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the logo. It was a Les Paul model before they got sued by copying Gibson,
Oh,
and it was a
yes.
great guitar, and it's all wooden color, no
Hmm.
color on it, natural color, I mean, and it played great, and I always wanted to get it back, but fortunately I think I never had something stolen or nothing of value or something like that. I was very fortunate so far.
You're
I
one of the
hope it
lucky ones.
continues. Yeah,
You're one of
I
the lucky
remember
ones.
Piggy got. There's a good story. Piggy got his double neck Liberator guitar stolen with a
Oh,
12 string and a 6 string. He remember
yeah.
he was playing that during the Nothing Face tour, and 30 years later we found it, and the guy who got it, he bought it in a pawn shop somewhere, and he came to our show in a remote place in Quebec here, like 13 hours away from Montreal, and he came to see the show, and he felt the need to give it back to the band. So at
Oh
some point,
my
it's gonna
God.
get back to Away and Snake,
So
and
they don't currently have it right now.
no, no,
He's got
and
it. This guy still got it.
he's got it, and it's gonna come back to the Voivod family.
How
I
do you
don't know if I
steal?
have. I don't
how
know
do you
if I can make it public though, but anyway,
yeah,
good
how do you
story.
steal that guitar? It's such an like you know, it's
They
not
were
that's not a Strat. You know what I mean? That's
yeah, exactly. You have to hide it. You cannot sell it back, or
yeah.
but I think they were on tour and they got stolen. Piggy lost a few
Wow.
guitars then, and it reminds me that the guy of Midnight, the guitar player of Midnight,
Yeah.
has had his guitar stolen in Montreal actually, and it's a very unique one too, like a flying V that was made for him. And
Oh
so we're
wow.
still looking for that one and
You still keep
try
your
to
eyes out.
bring it back to him.
It breaks my heart when I hear about bands or musicians getting stuff stolen. It's just the
That's so
shittiest.
low,
It's so
so low,
low. So low.
so
And
low.
people that do it, they don't get it, but it's like you fucker. You because you know a lot of the times and like with that, it's something you had custom made that you put your, you know, your
You're a
so much.
musician.
Yeah, you're a
I
musician.
mean, how can you rob a musician?
I know.
I mean,
You should have your hands cut off.
yeah, exactly.
Well, Dan, again, Dan, thank you so much, buddy. I'll let you go, but you have a good day, and thank you so much for doing this
Thanks
podcast.
for
This was
having me.
so
It
much
was a
fun for me.
pleasure, always a pleasure, Zach, to talk with you.
Yeah, buddy. Well, I
Yeah,
hope to see you soon. I'm sure we'll be circling each other for many years to come.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, buddy. Take care.
Take care.